This is Father Andrew Ritchie, and you're listening to Catholic Inspiration, a podcast from my website at studyprayserve.com. These homilies, presentations, and retreats form part of my ministry as a Catholic priest for the Diocese of Superior. And now I invite you to open your hearts to some Catholic inspiration. Today is Friday of the 15th week of the year. Now our responsorial psalm is actually taken from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 38, verses 10, 11, 12, and 16. And the response, "You saved my life, O Lord, I shall not die. Once I said, in the noontime of life I must depart. To the gates of the netherworld I shall be consigned for the rest of my years. I said, I shall see the Lord no more in the land of the living. No longer shall I behold my fellow men among those who dwell in the world. My dwelling, like a shepherd's tent, is struck down and borne away from me. You folded up my life like a weaver who severs the last thread. Those live whom the Lord protects. Yours is the life of my spirit. You have given me health and life. You saved my life, O Lord. I shall not die." This is a powerful reflection on mortality and immortality. Friends, you realize that our faith is a matter of life and death. I think sometimes we don't go as deep into our own faith as perhaps we might want to. Sometimes that we only scratch the surface. If you've ever had to go to a string of funerals in a row where you really see death up close and personal, maybe you have a job profession in a hospital or part of a nursing home facility. You see death up close and personal. All too often, death is reserved for these very special places where maybe it's a hospice house, nursing home, hospital, something that, is kind of dealt with around a funeral home. We protect ourselves often from death. 150 years ago, the simple fact of the matter is that most people died in their homes. It's different today. And so today, this passage is taken from the 38th chapter of Isaiah, reminds us that our lives here on earth, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That sooner or later, we will close our eyes on this life. We came into this world. One day we will step out of it. But the faith also tells us that Jesus, who lived, died, also rose. And so we have a hope that as we unite our hearts to Christ, we can understand that the Lord has saved our lives. And so we will not die forever. But rather, when we close our eyes on this life, we will open them to see Jesus. That the hope and the promise of eternal life, that's what we look at when we look at the victory of the cross. But let's be clear. Life and death that leads to eternal life. We're pilgrims. And as we're passing through, we do have to keep our eyes open to recognize the reality of death. It waits for all of us. And one day it will claim all of us. But just as we know that God so loved the world, He sent His only Son. So we put our hope in the promise that just as Jesus was victorious over death, as we unite our hearts to the Lord, then we unite to the hope that we will be with the Lord forever in heaven. Friends, today then, the opportunity for us is to reflect on our lives right here and right now with the awareness that one day we will die. I'm not saying this to be macabre or morbid or depressing. I'm saying this that we live the gift of life today, that we take to heart the opportunities God gives us today, and that we walk through life without regrets, saying, oh, if only I'd have done this or said that or prayed for this, or, if I'd have taken time. Maybe we look back on our life right now and go, yeah, I wish I'd have done it differently. Okay, I can't go back, but you know what I can do? I can learn from the past, so I live in the present with the conviction that this is the moment God has given me to live my life at full power. So friends, let's not waste the gift. Why? Because the Lord has saved our lives. We shall not die. But if we live for the Lord in this life. It's preparation for when we will be with the Lord in the next. That's our hope. That's our promise. That's our conviction, which is meant to drive us each and every day to shine with the light of Christ in this world. That's what we say. That's what we do. And it doesn't matter how big or how small our impact. What matters is, for the people God sets before us each and every day, are we living our lives in such a way that brings forth the good news of Jesus, the love of Jesus, into our life, that others might encounter the Lord as well. Lord, you've saved my life. I shall not die. May those words give us hope that even as we face the death that will one day claim us here on earth, we will live in such a manner so as to be prepared to be with the Lord forever in the communion of saints. God bless you all. This is Father Andrew Ritchie, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Catholic Inspiration. These homilies, podcasts, presentations, and retreats are part of my ministry. And folks, if you found it helpful, please feel free to share my podcast with someone you know and love in the hopes that it will help them in their journey of faith. And you can help me if you just go back to your podcast engine and write me a rating and a review. I keep all my listeners in my daily prayers, and I ask that you remember me in yours as well. God bless you, my friends.